Good afternoon. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners public hearing. It is July 13th, 2021, 3:05 p.m. My name is Ty Menser, Chair of the Board. To my left is the Vice Chair, Commissioner Gary Edwards. Commissioner Carolina Mejia joining us through Zoom. Our acting county manager today is CPED Director Joshua Cummings. And to my right and to his right is the Clerk of the Board, Amy Davis. Today's topic, we have two public hearings. The first is Transportation Impact Fee Rate Schedule. The purpose of the public hearing is to accept and consider public comment on the proposed revisions to the Thurston County Transportation Impact Fee Schedule based upon the 2021 Transportation Impact Fee Program Update Rate Study of March 3rd, 2021. A follow-up discussion on this item will take place on Tuesday, July 20th at 9 a.m. during agenda setting. This is a hybrid public hearing. Those wishing to testify have joined in person, by Zoom, email, or mailed in comment. If you wish to testify, please visit the Thurston County homepage online, select announcements of public hearings on the left-hand side. The information to join this public hearing has been posted there. If you do not wish to testify but would like to listen and follow along, please watch live stream through the Thurston County YouTube channel to help us manage attendance. Matt Unzelman, Traffic Engineering and Operations Manager, and I believe Becky Kahn. Matt?
Yes, that's correct. I'll introduce Becky.
We'll provide information on this topic. Folks who want to testify, I will read names on the sign-up sheet, and you'll have 4 minutes to testify. Assuming someone on Zoom wants to testify, we'll read your name aloud, and you'll have a chance to unmute and testify. Time may not be given to another person, and when you are called on, please state your name and area of the county in which you reside before you begin your comments. Public hearing is now open. Matt and Becky will present background information of the proposed amendment, written comments submitted, and any additional information as requested by the board. We'll go to public testimony, discussion, and that's it. So Matt, hand it to you.
Thank you, Commissioner. My name is Matt Unzelman. I'm a Thurston County Traffic Engineer. With me today is Becky Kahn. She's a civil engineer in our traffic engineering group. And we also have the consultants with us today who helped us provide this update. And that is Fair and Pierce, and Daniel and Kendra are here, I believe. And we're fortunate enough to have Fair and Pierce because they've done a lot of traffic impact fee work all over Western Washington. In this presentation, I'll be providing a summary of what has been discussed at numerous previous Board of County Commissioner meetings. In fact, I think we've had 5 or 6 meetings regarding impact fees. Traffic impact fees are a complicated subject, and I would encourage anyone interested to view these previous Board of County Commissioners on the Thurston County YouTube site. And if you need dates and times, please reach out to Becky or myself. On today's agenda, we have included a discussion on growth in Thurston County. I'll provide an overview of what transportation impact fees are. I'll describe our current impact fee program. I'll discuss our current proposed project list. And then we'll be discuss proposed rate options as well as next steps. So the reason we need impact fees here in Thurston County is because Thurston County is growing. By 2040, it's anticipated that 76,000 more people, which is a 26% increase to the existing volume or number of people, are going to be here in Thurston County. To put that in perspective, that's like adding another Lacey and Tumwater. With that growth, an increase of 40% of trips generated by traffic is going to be seen all over our infrastructure system. Now we have 2 different options to address this. We can either increase the roadway capacity, and I'll be talking about that a little bit later when I talk about our proposed project list, or we can decrease our level of service, which basically accept more traffic congestion and be okay with it's going to take you longer to go to the store or go to and from work. And sometimes it's going to take you a lot longer. So what are traffic impact fees? Traffic impact fees are a source for transportation infrastructure and are one-time charges paid by new development. Basically, the concept behind impact fees is that growth should pay for growth. Impact fees are authorized by RCW and regulated by Washington Washington Administrative Code. Impact fees are not unique to just Thurston County, however. Other agencies such as Olympia, Tumwater, Lacey, Pierce County, and many more have impact fee programs set up. Next slide, Becky. So our current impact fee program, Thurston County has been collecting fees since 2013. These fees have helped fund 16 projects in the last 5 years. Typically, Public Works will leverage a smaller amount of impact fee money for much larger amounts of state and federal funds. $6.6 million is planned to be utilized in the next 4 years to help fund projects. Next slide, Becky. Our project list includes 38 projects, which come from 6 different service areas and are located all throughout the county. It's important to know that impact fees can also be used to reimburse projects that are completed. So you may be looking at our project list and think, well, I think we just completed a project there, and it's because we have. We're allowed to reimburse any county road fund money that added capacity to that project for 10 years. I also want to make sure that you know that the total project cost is $243 million to construct the projects on the project list. Excuse me. But that doesn't mean that we're going to collect $243 million impact fees, because like I mentioned, we're going to use much smaller amounts of impact fees to leverage ourselves for much larger amounts of most often state and federal funding. So for the sake of time today, I'm not going to go through every single project on the project list. There's 38 of them, and I want to be conscious of time. But what I do want to do accomplish is describe the service areas and some of the highlights on the project list coming from each of those service areas. The first service area is the Central UGA. And this is a very fast growing service area. This is actually the City of Lacey urban growth area. So we have 2 projects. Both of them, the commissioner should be very familiar with. One is under construction, and that's our Mullen Road that extends from the City of Lacey limits to Carpenter Road. And on that project, we were able to utilize or leverage impact fees to obtain more than $6 million in state and federal grants. The other one the commissioner should be familiar with is the Yelm Highway and Meridian intersection project. And that's because you just recently authorized us to go to advertisement on that project. On that project, we matched federal funds in the amount, we were able to obtain $2 million in federal funding with a 13.5% match from our impact fee program. Our next service area is the East. And we're currently looking at the East and evaluating the projects. Specifically, one of the highlights on this list is the intersection at Rainier Road, Southeast and Fir Tree Road is seeing a large amount of traffic congestion, and we're in the planning phase of evaluating that intersection. The next service area is the North. And in the North, we've actually already secured more than $2 million in federal aid funding by leveraging traffic impact fees at the Johnson Point and Hawks Prairie Road roundabout. And that's important because that intersection was actually going to go into concurrency, which would have meant that development wouldn't have been able to continue in that part of the county. And the next 2 are the West and the Northwest service areas. We recently completed a project at Mud Bay Road and Evergreen Parkway, and we're going to be using impact fee funding to advance the planning, design, and right-of-way efforts in order to make ourselves more competitive for that grant or that federal and state grant funding. And then the last service area that I want to quickly talk about is the South. And we're putting a lot of impact fee money into the old Highway 99 and Tilley Road intersection currently. On that project, we've finished planning and we're in the preliminary design. And hopefully we've submitted a grant application recently requesting construction and right-of-way funding. So hopefully that'll be another case of where we leverage a smaller amount of impact fee funding for a much larger amount of state funding. Next slide, Becky. Okay, so Excuse me, I lost my place. As I mentioned before, the last rate study update was completed in 2013. The impact fee study has been updated to reflect the new project list, new traffic volumes, as well as new project growth, new traffic growth patterns. Based upon the updated study, the impact fees have also been updated. Staff is recommending that the Board of County Commissioners continue to assess a 50% reduction of the impact fees. This would amount to an average fee of $3,050 for new single-family homes, which is very, very similar to the current rate. So based upon the rate study, 3 service areas would increase very little, and 3 would decrease very little. Another update in the study is the inclusion of rates for accessory dwelling units, ADUs, and low-income housing. Staff is recommending that ADUs be assessed at a rate of half of the single-family housing rate, which is actually 25% of the full impact fee rate, and that the low income be reduced to 80% of the full rate as allowed by RCW. I would also like to bring to your attention that there's currently a House bill being considered to reduce impact fee for daycare facilities by 80%. And that could be reduced even more than 80% if a certain percentage of the children attending the facility meet the low income threshold. This next slide is to demonstrate that our proposed rates are similar to other agencies in our area. So if you look off to the right-hand side of this slide, you'll see our current 50% reduction compared to the currently adopted 50% reduction. So you can see that there's very little change between the two, as I was mentioning before. You can see that we're a little bit higher in Snohomish County, much less than Pierce County, much higher than Kitsap County, although Kitsap County is currently in the process of updating their traffic impact fees. So that's expected to go higher. And then you can see that we're pretty in line with what the city of Olympia and Tumwater is charging impact fees wise. And then you can see that we're a little bit higher than the city of Lacey. So the next steps would be that the board would adopt the impact fee rate schedule by resolution, and then Public Works would provide that that rate fee schedule to CPID to begin implementation, collecting those updated rates. So if that's all I had. Would you like me to share the public comment that I received at this point?
Hold on a second, Matt. Any questions from the commissioners on Matt's presentation so far? Commissioner Mejia?
No questions, but I would like to hear the public comment.
Okay, yeah, we'll get there. Commissioner Edwards?
I guess the only thing I could ask you on this very complicated topic you said is a very complicated criteria involved in setting these impact fees. This virus that we're dealing with has changed a lot of things.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was an open-ended question.
We're getting the mic set up.
We're getting the mic set up here, Matt. I apologize. Okay. You said this was very complicated, the criteria that goes into developing these fees. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm curious about this whole virus thing has kind of changed the way we're doing business, not necessarily us as a county, but all the businesses are being affected, and things like teleworking are becoming more commonplace, but we really don't know to what extent at this point in time. And I'm just wondering, the criteria that you use in developing these fee structures is probably based on something at least a couple years old, and I kind of doubt if you've been able to take into consideration the new phenomena of teleworking, for an example. So things like when people would show up for work, where, and the traffic flow, it's possible that those are going to be affected somewhat. And I'm kind of curious how much of a delay usually takes place. So by next year, do you think if we've got this figured out, you know, that 10% of the workforce is going to work from home compared to now or whatever it is, at some point we're going to have to take into consideration the differences that this is going to place on our society just as a normal course of doing business. And I just want to know, have you figured any of that in yet on any of your criteria?
I'll respond to that. And Daniel, please interrupt me if you have something more to add. You are the expert in this field. So what I would say is the answer is most of this traffic data, you're right, was from pre-pandemic levels. And so in response to how we address teleworking and that sort of thing is we need to stay on top of our project list. We need to make sure. So the last time we updated this study was in 2013. What I would recommend, because the future is a little relatively uncertain, is we need to be more frequent about reviewing all of our intersections and making sure that that traffic impact fee list is still current. Because you're right, I will tell you that traffic volumes are beginning to come back to the 90% level, and I would imagine that they're still going to keep coming back to pre-pandemic levels, but it is a little bit uncertain. So I think that's a very fair comment.
Okay, thank you.
Didn't tons of cars get sold during the, really not holding out much hope for less traffic, but it's always hope. I had a question, Matt, on slide 14, when you have the proposed rate adoptions. I just want to make sure it says accessory dwelling unit, 50% of the proposed single family rate. So I understand that that's therefore 75% off the maximum defensible. But the next item says low income housing, 80% of the proposed rate. It doesn't say proposed single family rate. So what I understood you to say is it said 80% off of the 50% that we're proposing, or is it 80% off the total?
It would be 80% off of what we're proposing, correct, Daniel?
Correct. And Commissioner or Chair, Minister, the reason why we don't say off of the single family rate is because we could have low income housing that's multiple units. So the multifamily housing rate, it would be 80% off of that, 50% reduction as well. So.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understood, and if there was a distinction there that I needed to grasp, and you just explained it. Okay, so why don't, Matt, you summarize what we've got in terms of public comment to so far?
So I've only received one comment, and that comment was they were not in support of the 50% maximum defensible rate. They actually are requesting that we charge 100% of the rates. And the reason for that is this individual feels that development should pay for development. And to achieve that, 100% of the rate needs to be charged. And that's all I've received to date.
Commissioner Edwards?
I guess just to follow up on that, Matt, what would we have to set the rate at if we did not want to see it go up above what we currently are charging? Would we have to set that at 55% or 45%, or what would that be, so that if we were so inclined, we didn't want to make any changes to what we're doing today? Could you give me that figure? What would that be to bring it, you know, because we are making a slight increase. I don't know what that percentage is, but like you mentioned, you're proposing just a little more than we're doing right now. And I don't even know what percentage that would be, 5% more according to your graph. I'm not sure.
All I can say is I don't have that number on the head or on the top of my head. It's very difficult to come up with these numbers. And the problem is that some of them are going up and some of the service areas are going down. So to actually get that one number to work for each service area could be fairly difficult.
As if you were basically saying, I think what you're saying is you don't want any service area to go up, which means like one would be the same and the three others would go down.
Well, I mean, that would be my preference, that this bar on slide 15, it looks like it's going to go, I'm just going to take a guess, 5%, maybe more than what we're doing today. Is the proposal.
Is this bar, just to follow up on that, is this bar like an average of the service areas?
And that's the issue, is that's the average. So I'm trying to figure out a good way of saying this. So that's an average rate, but it would be difficult to do that and not have the same reduction in all of the service areas. Did I say that right, Daniel?
Yeah, so just playing around with some numbers, if you wanted every single service area, and we have 6 different service areas, to be lower than the currently adopted rate, you would have to go to a 65% reduction, which is 35% of the maximum allowable rate. What that would do is in the north, you would be about $66 under the current rate, but then in the east and East UGA, you'd be over $2,000 under the current rate. So if you go to that higher percentage, you make it so every single service area is lower, but you also are discounting it quite a bit compared to the current rates for some service areas.
Oh, okay, bearing that in mind, what are we faced with as far as a time element that are we on a deadline, like we have to get this done by August 1st, or, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out, do we have time to take a look at what it would entail to try not to make any additional costs? I'm thinking about attainable housing, because anytime we raise any of these fees, we're also jacking up the cost of housing. So I'm probably not in line with the single person that made comment to you, Matt, and I take it that was in writing. But on the other hand, I do think we're doing something new now, and so things like ADUs and the low-income housing and that, I think that's worth addressing this time around. So rather than voting against the whole thing, I would be looking for a compromise, I guess, but I'm trying to figure out a way to get there, because I know staff has put a lot of work into the computations that go into this. So I don't know if I'm asking too much in a short period of time, and we're up against a time frame, and if we don't do it within a certain period of time, we miss the window. Those are things that I really don't have a good handle on. So I'm just asking the question, that's all.
There's not a definite timeline, but what I would say is there could be some issues with not having a current project list, because we're supposed to be collecting on those projects that have been identified as currently having those traffic congestion issues. And so if we're collecting for projects that might be dropping off of the list this time, there could be some issues there.
Okay. Okay, that'll do for me for now, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Mejia, anything, or are we ready to proceed to public testimony?
I'm ready to proceed.
Okay, let's do that. We have in-person and we have Zoom, and we'll start with in-person, and I haven't been handed a sign-up sheet.
Mr. Pettit is prepared to provide comment.
Okay, then Mr. Pettit's up.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name's John Pettit. I'm from East Olympia. This is a really interesting and very critical element that you're dealing with traffic impact fees. I work with a number of different people, some who develop a variety of different types of property, and some of the fees are extremely expensive. Let's say you were going to have a small grocery store with a gas station, you'll probably be paying over $30 a square foot just for traffic impact fees for that type of facility. So if you have a 5,000 square foot building, it adds up to be about $150,000 real quick. So, I think that the impact fees, I'd prefer to see none, but that's not going to happen in today's environment. I know that, but I will have to compliment Public Works and my request for some information regarding traffic impact fees. And they gave me a wonderful list showing all of the different ones that was collected up until a certain date and time frame. And it shows the distribution, the plan of distributions for the different projects that they have planned. I think it's really important that you, as commissioners in this decision process, get to review this. I emailed and forwarded the information that the Public Works sent to me. I'll be happy to talk personally to you to try to explain what I know. I did miss seeing any actual fee schedule here at this meeting today. I do think that Matt, one of my favorite guys at Public Works, he does a great job in everything. I think a fee schedule would be good. I think he made a point. Probably out of the most serious part really isn't the fees themselves that you need to get done in order to make your compliance levels, but your project list needs to get done. Because if you don't get your project list done and updated, then we're charging a variety of different things. One of the things which I wanted to note to you about this nice fancy list I got was I live out off Rich Road. Everyone knows that knows me. And the project I have, there's a bridge they put in 2012. Well, I thought that it was a notable thing to say, when people do development, that they should be paying for the improvements. What I didn't like to see was people that filed for this year and made an impact fee would be paying for a project that was done 8 years ago. I think that means you're not really paying for your improvement into the future. You're paying for improvements that happened before you ever existed. You should have waited 2 years and you wouldn't have been obligated to pay for that amount. So I think that is part of the questions that go as to how we're charging and how we're sending it. There are certain areas of the county, like up in the Northwest, that doesn't even make a contribution to other areas, certain other areas, and yet other areas donate to everyone. So there's a question of being fair. So if I was going to tag on to something that was suggested, or I heard an undertone of, was, well, I don't like impact fees at all. I think rather than trying to always go to the most certain level of the defensible amount, I would suggest that the commission could perhaps adopt a new list of projects. And then I think that you could actually maintain your current fee structure that you have until you really have a chance to study it out and make sure that we're not stabbing affordable housing in the foot. The bottom line is every dollar that's being paid in is being paid out by somebody who's doing it. The only last question, I know I'm kind of out of time, a quick question here is that in percentage to the actual jobs that are done, what is the percentage of impact fee that is being paid? I think you'll find it's only like maybe 10% of the price of a project, and I think that should be brought out for the record so everyone can know what that is too. Thank you. Hope to hear from you if you have questions.
Thank you. Let's check our Zoom.
Great. We have LaTanya Jackson. Would you like to provide comment?
I do not. I am just joining in today. Just kind of wanted to get my feet wet and know what was going on in my community. I am enjoying the conversation and listening, and I'll be taking part in more when I'm more informed.
Great. We welcome your participation.
Thank you.
Karen Mesmer, would you like to provide comment?
Yes, I would. Thank you. I do understand. My name is Karen Messmer. I live in Olympia. I do understand impact fees and their technicalities. I was a member of the Olympia Planning Commission for 9 years and the council at Olympia for 4 years, and I've made a advocacy career out of transportation issues. Growth should pay for growth. I do not agree that that impact fees increase the price of housing. The market is currently pushing prices separate from impact fees, and the market and the pricing structure would adjust for impact fees. People expect safe and efficient roads, and at the same time, some people apparently don't want to pay any taxes. So we need to figure out how to work through that dilemma. About the 50% discount from the actual defensible level of impact fees means that you will be providing a lower level of service, or you will be asking the rest of us to pay for the growth. So growth will not be paying for growth with this current proposed fee structure. You cannot rely on grants. And in fact, those grants should be used for other purposes, such as catching up on the safety improvements that cannot be paid for with impact fees. The staff said that you're putting quite a bit of impact fee funds in the South area. However, according to the study, each new housing unit brings $9,000 in costs in road projects within that area. This fee structure and this 50% adjustment does not cover that. And we're only collecting half of that cost and yet putting many of the dollars in that area. So this is not a fair way to distribute this nor to collect this. So the rest of us are paying. Your rate should be not be set by what other jurisdictions are charging. It ought to be an honest reflection of the impact costs. So we don't collect for the costs of growth for things such as increased sheriff costs, for example. This is one of the few places you can actually collect some funds and really account for with that list what it takes to support safe and efficient travel. So I urge you to at least hold at something above 50%, which is honestly a bit embarrassing because the defensible, half of the defensible is a little bit of a slap to the rest of us for what we're having to pay. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe Kendra Breland, are you part of the consulting group, or would you like to provide comment?
She's with Fair and Pierce.
Great.
I am.
And that appears to be everyone that's on the Zoom for comment.
Okay, sounds like public comment is complete then. Let's see where we're at. We've got
and Commissioner, as you stated, the next step would be you're going to have a follow-up on this conversation at your July 20th check-in meeting. So no decision needs to be made today.
right. Yeah, I don't think we're anticipating that, but if the board has any further items they'd like to ask or discuss, we can do that.
One other item, I guess I'd like to bring to staff's attention, because we are going to have additional discussion, it sounds like, on this. So, Matt, when you guys come back to give us an additional briefing, I guess, I'm just going to pick one issue out of your transportation impact fee rate schedule for 2021. And I would wonder if you could help me understand. I'm going to go to a daycare center, and that's under code 565. And then it goes on to assign dollar amounts depending on where that center would be located. So like Northwest is about $14, West is closer to 10, South would be almost 22, and East is 12, North is again closer to 10, and Central is almost 14. So I guess my question is, could you explain those differences as to why there's different rates charged for different particular areas? And that's probably going to be applicable to all the different schedules here, but But because I'm paying particular attention to daycare and trying to get daycare costs down, that maybe would help me understand exactly what's going on.
We can,
That's it for me, sir.
we can provide that update for sure.
Are you going to do it? Did you want to do it now? I thought when.
Oh, I see. It's a question to present for our next discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought I'd throw that out so we're not catching them off guard. Give them something to bring back. At least that's a question from me. I don't know about my seatmates, but.
Like, why is it twice as much in the south than in the east
Yeah, basically, that's what it boils down
for
to.
the same type of operation?
Same.
Okay, well, I guess we'll get there. Commissioner Mejia, anything at this point?
Not at this point, thank you.
Okay, then is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Yes, I would move to close the public hearing.
I would second.
Moved and seconded. I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Mejia,
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards,
Aye.
Commissioner Minzer.
Aye. Motion carries. Public hearing closed, and we will take this up next Tuesday. Okay, that's going to take us to our, do we need another Zoom? Okay, so we're going to go to a different Zoom where we will take up the issue of the 2021 Housing Urban Development Annual Action Plan public hearing. Thank you. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners public hearing for July 13th, 2021 regarding the program year 2021 HUD Annual Action Plans. 3:44 p.m. My name is Ty Menser, Chair of the Board. To my left is Vice Chair Commissioner Gary Edwards, and Commissioner Carolina Mejia is participating through Zoom. The Acting County Manager and Community Planning and Economic Development Director, Joshua Cummings, is to my right, and the Clerk of the Board, Amy Davis, is to his right. The purpose of this public hearing is to accept and consider public comment on the proposed 2021 HUD Annual Action Plan. This is a hybrid public hearing. Those wishing to testify have joined in person, by Zoom, emailed in comment, or mailed in comment. If you wish to testify, please visit the Thurston County homepage online, select Announcements of Public Hearings on the left side. The information to join this public hearing remotely has been posted there. If you do not wish to testify but would like to listen and follow along, please watch our live stream on the Thurston County YouTube channel. Jacinda Stelches, Affordable Housing Coordinator, and Tom Webster, Social Service Program Specialist 2, will provide information on this topic. We'll go through sign up if there is any, Zoom if there is any. Each person will have 4 minutes to testify and may not give time to another person. When you are called on, please state your name and address for the record. Public hearing is open. Jacinda and Tom will now present background information of the proposed amendment, written comments submitted, and any additional information as requested by the board. Tom, I'll pass the baton directly to you.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Tom Webster with Public Health and Social Services. I'm gonna let Jacinda provide most of the information, but just some background. This is an annual hearing that we're required to have by the Department of Housing and Urban Development related to the Home Investment Partnership and Community Development Block Grant funds that we receive from HUD. So this is part of our annual process to allocate these funds. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jacinda to provide you additional background and context on this plan we've put together.
Good afternoon, Commissioners and public. Jacinda Stelchis with the Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention. As Tom mentioned, this is an annual plan that we put together in order to receive our funds from HUD, CDBG, and HOME. So what is presented here, we have a list for the CDBG that those awards were made through Tumwater this year. If you all recall, that's a rotating allocation between Tumwater, Lacey, and the South counties. And then HOME program funding was made through the Regional Housing Council. So a list of the projects were provided as part of this hearing. We have, just to kind of again summarize, there's approximately $1,345,329 in CDBG funding and just over $1 million in HOME funding. CDBG is being allocated toward public services projects as well as housing projects. And HOME, by the nature of that program, is all housing, affordable housing projects. So our program year will begin in September 1st through of this year, 2021, through August 31st of 2022. And after we hold this hearing and take any comments, we will submit our plan and any of those comments and our responses to them to HUD. We'll then review our plan, hopefully at some point approve it, and then we'll move into actually contracting with the service providers and housing developers.
You're used to deciphering all that.
Did you miss anything, Commissioner?
No, I didn't miss anything.
Okay. All right, you were breaking up. I think we caught 99% of what you had there, Jacinda. Any questions, Commissioner Mejia?
No, I got all of it. No
Okay.
questions.
Good.
I do have a question.
Yep.
This is something that we do on a regular basis, and it's just part of the process to get some money coming in from the government. Is that right? And Tom?
Essentially, that is correct. So we have a 5-year consolidated plan. And so as part of being transparent with the public of how we're using these federal funds, HUD requires us to have this public notice. We put out the plan 30 days ago, and the public has had 30 days to review the plan and provide comment. And so as part of the transparency of utilizing these federal funds, this public hearing is required by HUD.
Okay, did we get any comment other than maybe we might get some today, but have you received any comment up until now?
I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of feedback from Commissioner Edwards.
Jacinda, can you mute? Okay, let's try it again. Commissioner Edwards asked if there was any public comment received before today. And the answer, Tom, is?
No, we have not received any public comment to date.
Okay. All right.
My only question, sir.
Okay, so we have no one in the boardroom. I can tell because there's only 4 squares, but we have nobody on the Zoom. And that means that we can go to discussion if there's any from the board, or I would contemplate a motion to close this public hearing.
I would move to close this public hearing, being there's no additional testimony.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Call for the vote.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer?
Aye. Motion carries. Public hearing is closed. Is there a motion with respect to the underlying issue?
Yes, sir. I would move to approve the resolution to adopt the fiscal year 2021 Housing and Urban Development, HUD Annual Action Plan, and authorize the chair of the Board of County Commissioners to sign the HUD form, and I believe that's standard form 424, and approve submission of the plan to HUD, and authorize the Director of Public Health and Social Services to sign the applicable program certifications, home and CDBG subrecipient contracts, and amendments that do not exceed 10%.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Call for the vote.
Commissioner Mejia,
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards,
Aye.
Commissioner Mincer,
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Jacinda. That is the end of the public hearing. It is 3:51. I'm going to ask that we convene for Board of Health at 4 o'clock. Give ourselves a quick break, and then we'll take up Board of Health 4 p.m. sharp. Thanks, everybody.